Sophie Cunningham showed that she is, the old Caitlin Clark enforcer. She is the Caitlin Clark enforcer. That has been shown. She is the enforcer that the Fever have needed for the last year, and she has responded. She has responded.
What happens when Sophie Cunningham throws away the basketball and dons the bodyguard badge as if she's been employed by the Secret Service, specifically for Caitlin Clark's complete chaos? We're talking about full-on emotional destruction, with tempers erupting in the locker room and Sophie smoking like it's her job.
Sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlin Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlin Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
Sophie didn't simply show there to play. Instead, she dismantled the entire Connecticut Sun as if she had been planning it all season. Sophie's disappearance wasn't a flicker. Rather, it was a full superhero origin tale. This wasn't just drama. It was scorched earth policy, and you can be sure that the fallout was intense. So, how did Sophie speak up after being expelled for standing up for Caitlin Clark against the Connecticut Sun Bullies? We'll break it down. If you agree with Sophie, leave a comment below, and let's move on.
Let's start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlin pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bad out of hell, chucks Caitlin.
Sophie Cunningham arrived with a single goal: to ensure that no one touched Caitlin Clark without immediate, life-altering repercussions. Instead of clocking in for a normal shift, she clocked in for warfare. The WNBA should have been on high alert from the moment Sophie Cunningham arrived. Consider her to be a human firewall. If you go beyond her boundaries, you're going to burn.
Welcome to WNBA Fight Night, or as some people are saying, WNBA Raw. What a game that was. We had it all. We had basketball, we had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an epic. Oh, goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
Let's face it, Sophie wasn't moving like a teammate. Rather, she was moving like the head of security at Area 51. You elbow Caitlin, and suddenly, with the fury of 10 irate gym teachers and a crossover that serves as a warning, Sophie appears. You bump into Caitlin after the whistle, and congrats. You've called forth the basketball Grim Reaper, and she's got a ponytail and a...
Well, let's start here. This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go. So there's that. That, of course, was all a byproduct of this right here, folks. And I mean, when I tell you social media is setting the WNBA on fire right now, not in a good way, it's the understatement.
Sophie does territorial patrols instead of warm-up jogs. She looks around the court like a hawk with caffeine jitters, ready to stop chaos before it starts. Oh, she's the judge, jury, and executioner of the court. One wrong move around Caitlin and Sophie is already halfway into your lane, delivering justice with a side of shoulder check intimidation. Her body language doesn't say, let's play. Try me and meet your chiropractor, it says.
Of course, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected because that was unwarranted. She literally came out of nowhere and chucked Caitlin Clark. There should be a flagrant one, of course, on JC Sheldon because she swiped her and hit her in the eyeball. Whether it is intentional or not, you can still have a flagrant a flagrant foul called on you, whether you are trying to intentionally hurt somebody or not. But this is what they called, you guys. This is what they called. Caitlin Clark, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles were assessed with technical fouls on Tuesday. Caitlin, Marina, and Tina Charles. Technical fouls. That's it. Technical fouls. That's it. And JC Sheldon was assessed with a flagrant 1 foul, and no players were ejected.
Other players stretch before games. Sophie loads symbolic ammunition while coaches discuss tactics. This woman is more than simply a deterrent. There's no halfway with Sophie. She's not here for the pre-game vibes. She's here to throw down like it's the Hunger Games and Caitlin's holding the last district. This level of fearless loyalty is practically extinct in the league, while some stars are curating playlists and practicing mindfulness. Sophie is planning divine retribution for anyone considering getting spicy with the Fever's golden child. Even the most seasoned veterans suddenly remember they left the oven on. With court clearance, Sophie is charging into the arena like a berserker, bringing that bruiser intensity from the 1990s with a contemporary don't mess with mind attitude. Mindset its instinct rather than plan. Since Rodman was body slamming people in the paint, the league hasn't witnessed this kind of I'll burn it all down before I let you touch her energy attitude, which is a personality attribute with footwear that you can't teach.
I feel good, and Sophie Cunningham put me out on a high note, folks. I didn't even say, Ben, calm down. Calm down, regroup. I didn't even say that. Let's get straight to the play. Everybody, the plays everybody is talking about. First off, Marina Mabrey body checking Caitlin Clark to the ground. JC Sheldon all over her. Riding her. Pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. Oh, man. Caitlin Clark needs to start wearing goggles, folks. Caitlin Clark's going to need to start wearing goggles. Bumps up on Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark says, "Get your hands off me." And then here comes Marina Mabrey. Boom! Exploding Caitlin Clark like a safety coming downhill in the NFL. There was no flop there.
Let's now address the actual problem. With a bullseye on her back the size of Indiana, Caitlin Clark didn't enter this league. Instead, she was thrown into the lion's den, where not only defenders, but entire rosters were chasing her down as if she owed them money. It was insufficient to surpass her. Instead, they intended to make a statement by pushing her into the Gatorade cooler and sending a message. But they failed to take into consideration Sophie Watch Your Mouth Cunningham sitting in the front row with a grudge.
About a minute and a half into recording this reaction earlier, with 1 minute left, and all hell broke loose between JC Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham, and it is very clear the Indiana Fever, some of these girls on this team are finally fed up.
It wasn't just about team chemistry. Sophie appointed herself protector chief, and let me tell you that her background checks are extensive and have consequences. They didn't realize that one woman could put an end to a whole press of pettiness, so she turned Clark's target zone into a demolition zone. If you try to rough Caitlin up, you're on Sophie's hit list. Like some people read box scores, she reads vibes.
Once again, WNBA, we're not talking about your basketball. We're talking about the WNBA WWE Raw circus that you got going on right now, and we all know this incident with Sophie stems from the incident that was clearly not handled correctly by the WNBA and the referees.
During a season where every game seemed like a test and required patience in addition to skill, Caitlin had to deal with cheap shots. Side eyes murmured a little, but Caitlin maintained her poise like a veteran. Sophie made sure that maintaining style didn't equate to being weak. Maintaining peace in a conflict zone was more important than playing the game.
All right, enough is enough. You know, at some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlin Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning, I've kind of like backed off on, because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their job.
Sophie was already creating her own plays while the opposing teams were gathering to plan on Clark. These plays mostly involved intimidation, timing, and completely legal aggression. The moment someone glanced in Caitlin's direction, Sophie was fully loaded and prepared to use legal screens and passive-aggressive body language to deliver holy judgment. She's protecting Caitlin because she understands the greater picture, not because she wants to gain influence. Here's the twist. Sophie is a true hooper who also serves as the league's most dangerous deterrent. She isn't here for flowers, trophies, or tweets. Rather, she is here for Caitlin's safety, her team's sanity, and the complete destruction of any bad faith hiccup that miraculously isn't a foul. Sophie is more than just a teammate. She is a force of nature, and when she enters a play with that signature, you messed up smirk, everyone on the court knows that things are about to get serious for
WNBA, Kathy Engelberg. Hello, Earth to Kathy Engelberg. Are you going to step in and do something about this trash that's going on? Players are getting assaulted on the floor. Like, come on, bro. Caitlin Clark could have really got injured right there, y'all. She could have really got injured by these haters, these jealous, hating players. They just jealous and hating, bro. She didn't even get ejected.
Sophie was already creating her own plays while the opposing teams were gathering to plan on Clark. These plays mostly involved intimidation, timing, and completely legal aggression. The moment someone glanced in Caitlin's direction, Sophie was fully loaded and prepared to use legal screens and passive-aggressive body language to deliver holy judgment. She's protecting Caitlin because she understands the greater picture, not because she wants to gain influence. Here's the twist. Sophie is a true hooper who also serves as the league's most dangerous deterrent. She isn't here for flowers, trophies, or tweets. Rather, she is here for Caitlin's safety, her team's sanity, and the complete destruction of any bad faith hiccup that miraculously isn't a foul. Sophie is more than just a teammate. She is a force of nature, and when she enters a play with that signature, you messed up smirk, everyone on the court knows that things are about to get serious for.
By the way, this is what she posted as soon as it happened. This is in the locker room. This is before the game ended. Before the game ended, she comes out in the locker room and posts this. Like, what are we doing?
The next time someone considers making a cheap shot at Caitlin, they should keep in mind that she never enters a game by herself. Sophie Cunningham is only a sidelong glance away from changing the course of events, the scoreboard, and possibly your entire career path. She isn't here for post-game interviews. Rather, she is here for the post-game silence, which is when her presence alone puts an end to the entire situation. Welcome to the Fever Defense Program. Step to Clark, and good luck to you and Cunningham.
Caitlin Clark, please leave this league and let it crumble. Please, this league does not deserve you. All this hate from these black people, all this hate from these lesbians, these people in the media, just go play basketball somewhere else. Your fans will follow you. We will follow you wherever you go. But let this shit crumble and burn to the ground, man. Let the viewership drop below 50%. Let them lose hundreds of millions of dollars again, man. Let them go back into irrelevancy. Nobody giving a damn about none of these players. Just leave.
By the way, this is what she posted as soon as it happened, in the locker room before the game ended. She posted this like, "What are we doing?" when the Connecticut Sun players decided to try their luck with some dubious fouls and sly moving screens. Without hesitation, Sophie Cunningham adopted a medieval look, complete with a tight ponytail, no warm-up, and unadulterated vengeance that makes even seasoned athletes reconsider their professional paths. A single second targeting Caitlin Clark as the next this isn't some over-the-top act. Sophie is simply behaving tough in her natural environment, treating every cheap shot like a personal challenge if you roll up on Clark with malevolent purpose. Sophie appeared out of thin air like a basketball terminator with no chill. Halfway through her counterattack, Cunningham is most likely mentally writing your epitaph while focusing on your jersey number.
Nah. Enough's enough, bruh. Enough is enough, bruh. What is going on? WNBA, y'all need to get this under control. This is ridiculous. Marina Mabrey, you just put yourself in the Dejanay Carrington box. You dirty slime ball player, you come and blindside Caitlin Clark. Marina Mabrey assaulted and tried to fight Caitlin Clark today. This is ridiculous. WNBA, Kathy Engelberg, do something. Do y'all want to go back to 55 to 60% of the people not watching shit again? I normally don't cuss in my blogs, but forget that. This was bullshit.
Sophie is now imposing limits rather than playing defense. When Sophie zeroes in on you with that try me face, your life flashes before your eyes. Don't think this is chaos. You make eye contact with Caitlin as though you're planning something shady. Sophie is already gliding in from the three-point line with purpose, and the entire team instinctively backs down. They don't know why, they just know danger has arrived and it smells faintly of sweat, aggression, and vengeance. Sophie hits you with just enough legality to stay on the court. This is chess, not checkers. She doesn't lash out rashly at court, and just enough force to make you reevaluate your entire way of living. She may not be the enforcer the league requested, but she is unquestionably the one it needs, particularly if Caitlin is using elbows as if she had wandered into a biker bar in the middle of a tilt.
She went and got revenge. Sophie Cunningham, JC Sheldon's driving to the basket. Sophie Cunningham takes her down. Normal enough take foul. Lindsay Allen gets her by the neck. Then JC Sheldon goes at her, and Sophie Cunningham, by the way, Sophie Cunningham, if she wanted to, it looked like Sophie Cunningham was about to throw some knees at her. Like, she had her in an MMA hold. Like, Sophie Cunningham could have got this MMA fight ended. She could have got this fight ended quickly.
The moment they began to circle Caitlin as if it were Shark Week, Sophie came in like a caffeine-injected hawk with a particular grudge. This wasn't a defensive move. Rather, it was a declaration that if there had been a flag to toss while Clark continued to drop buckets as if nothing had happened, Sophie stood tall, unfazed, and silently daring anyone else to try again. Sophie would have been the flag, the warning sign, the klaxon, the you messed up alarm. One would think someone on the Sun might have said, maybe this isn't the team we start swinging on. But no, this turned into an all-out scuffle, and Sophie happily stepped in as captain, referee, and punishment all in one.
So much happened in this game, but first, let's talk about Sophie and JC. All right, JC Sheldon. My goodness, dog. My goodness. Now, honestly, I felt like Sophie might have wanted a piece of JC after the Caitlin Clark and JC kind of scuffle going on, right? Then this happened, okay?
That's the problem. Sophie is there to cause disruption with surgical precision, not to gain approval or pursue endorsement deals or soft focus interviews. The patterns become painfully obvious. You make a move on Clark, and your body suddenly reacquaints itself with gravity in a brand new way, chirping during a timeout. Other teams have finally caught on and are sneezing in Caitlin's direction. Sophie is already powering up like a Marvel villain with nothing to lose. She doesn't want respect. She demands fear, and she gets it, usually while rejecting your weak layup and leaving you with a psychological scar that will last through next season. AT parent-teacher conferences. Sophie is already leaning on the scorer's table like your mother. This isn't teamwork. Rather, it's tactical dominance, and while pundits are frantically trying to characterize it as passion, let's face it, they're just relieved. Despite being on press row for mispronouncing her teammate's name, Sophie hasn't lost all of her temper at the Palace.
We see Caitlin Clark on the receiving end of something, and it's not called correctly. In fact, she gets a technical foul after getting poked in the eye and then shoved to the floor, and Marina Mabrey doesn't even get thrown out of the game. It's basically open season on Caitlin Clark, and the special whistle that she supposedly gets goes in the other direction. Flagrantly so. They got to put it to an end. I mean, she's the most valuable player in the league in the most literal sense. And somehow she gets the opposite of superstar treatment.
Because don't make any mistakes, this is the time of Sophie Cunningham. Caitlin Clark may be the league's future, but Sophie is the stronghold around that future. If you think you'll make a name for yourself by roughing up the next big star, you'd better be flexible because Sophie is going to fold you like a lawn chair. She's the bodyguard, the bouncer, the wall of fury that you never saw coming, and because of her, the WNBA has become a must-watch TV show. She doesn't throw shade. Instead, she brings the whole thunderstorm. So if you're considering throwing elbows, you'd better have a helmet, a plan, and a strong emotional support system since Sophie is waiting and watching, ready to remind you. Caitlin Clark is off limits, and if that bothers you, you have around 5 seconds until Sophie makes the worst choice of the season. If you agree with Sophie, leave a comment below, like, subscribe, and enable all alerts so you don't miss anything.